What we do, it's everyone's favorite boomer and vintage lens enthusiast. And today we're going to discuss yet again the Nikon Nikkor AFS 24 to 85 millimeter, 35 to 85G ED. There's no VR in this lens. Now, did I mention that this is a full frame lens? And you can put it on a full frame camera like I have here. I have the Z6. Here's the Z6. Right? And you could put this on a Z6 and take advantage of this full frame. So it's 24 millimeter. That's sort of like a super wide angle on a full frame camera, as opposed to a medium wide angle on a crop sensor. Of course, this is the F-mount lens. You have to use the FTZ adapter. The A6 has the Z6 has built-in image stabilization. And since it communicates with the lens and it knows what the focal length and all that stuff is, it does all that cool stuff automatically. And since it's a G lens, you have to control the aperture through the camera anyway. So I've complained a little bit about this lens on the Z50. And wouldn't you know it, even on the Z6, I had to go to AF fine tune and make it -10. And it became quite normal. And we're going to look at the pictures I took at the park, of course, of reeds and bulrushes, and they're even going to chuck in a movie this time because we had 5 inches of rain and the creek was overflowed and swollen. Now, you may notice, oh, Boomer, why do you have this Canon Rebel T1i here? Well, you know, I complained how I bought this lens, this camera brand new for $7.99 back in the day, and today you get them for $100. And I could recommend, it's only 50 megapixels, but I could recommend this camera and this combination, the Canon EFS 15 to 85 millimeter image stabilizer and ultrasonic. Wow, this is a great combo. You want to go cheap, you get this. I mean, if you're on a budget and you want to do excellent photography, pick up a T1i used for $100. You could get this, if you don't mind it being a little scruffy, you could probably pick one of these up for $200, but in excellent condition you get $300. So for $400 you have a great camera. The Z6, they're still like close to $1,000, a body only. And then the FTZ adapter, they're like $190. They held their value more than anything else. So if you're doing vintage lenses, then it doesn't matter. But you know what? This is a vintage lens now. It's discontinued. They came out with a VR model. It's bigger and heavier. Here, look at this. This is much wider. And it's longer. Remember, this is not an adapter. So this lens is longer without an adapter. This lens is shorter without the adapter. Okay. So, I mean, gotta keep that in mind. But this thing takes great, wonderful pictures, and I highly recommend it. Pick up a used one, you can't go wrong. But, you know, it's only 15 megapixel. This is 20 megapixel. Interesting, it's 20 megapixel full frame, and it's the same 20 megapixel on the crop sensor that the Z50 has. So I don't know what that means. It means that you get the zoom ratio changes. I mean, you still get the same, if you look at the image scale of something at a distance, they're both going to have the same image scale on a chip, but the way the chip is smaller and has more megapixels, it's going to appear to be more magnification. So be that as it may. This is a fine camera. It's got some goofy things about it. It has a proprietary memory card, but that doesn't matter. You know, when you buy, if you're going to buy a used one, just make sure you get the card reader and a card with it. That's part of the deal, I think. Otherwise, it's got a feature-rich menu as opposed to a Spartan menu. The Canon has a Spartan menu, but it's not that's to say it's totally adequate, which it is. It's totally adequate. This has some more cool features that you can play with and adjust and all that. It's got all these cool buttons. It has an articulated screen, whereas the T1i does not have an articulated screen, but that's not a deal breaker. If you want a DSLR, get one of these bad boys for $100, and any one of the various Canon lenses. But I had to. Oh, and this is the thing. There's no AF adjust in this thing. You slap a lens on and it works. That's what's so great about it. This thing, well, they tried to be backwards compatible, I guess. And Z lenses are expensive, and they're still few and far between. Late 2023, and they do have a harsh, modern look to it. It's hard to describe. This lens has a more of a vintage look than the native Z lenses do. And it does have excellent color. It is supposed to have some distortion, but the camera, because the lookup table is supposed to correct the distortion. You could dial that in or out, off or on at your leisure. The bottom dollar is if you could get the 24-85 millimeter G ED non-VR for $100 or $150 in excellent condition, yeah, I say get one. It's okay. If you're going to slap it on the Z50 and it has the built-in image stabilization, well, that's great, because this is going to cost you $200 or $300 just this lens, so you're saving in that respect. So, but we're going to look at the pictures of the park, of the reeds and the bulrushes and the creek and the stone walls like we always do, and we're going to see how it pans out. And like I said, the Z6, the 24-85 millimeter, is it a killer combo? No. I heard that people say this is a super sharp lens, but you know what? It's okay. Once I dialed in the autofocus, it's okay. It's not great, it's just okay. I torture tested it by shooting in the sunlight a lot, and it does handle flare excellently. I think this thing handles the flare even better, but that's probably more modern lens. So let's jump right into the pictures and start checking them out, shall we? I've been living in an alternative timeline. The Nikon Z6 is a 25 megapixel full frame digital mirrorless camera. I had to adjust the autofocus to -10, and I get really great results using the 25-85 millimeter GED. And of course, since it communicates with the camera, it uses it in body stabilization, and that helps your pictures be a lot sharper. And I was very pleased with this lens now, except I noticed that it has the old Nikon blurry on the right side of the field of view at the wide angle setting. At 24 millimeters, it could be critical sharp across maybe 4/5 of the frame, but the last fifth on the right is blurry. It's out of focus or something. Maybe it's decentered. But at 85 millimeters, I don't notice that at all, or 43 millimeters, mostly at 24 millimeters. Looks like for best results, you should stop it down to f13, but f10 works. And you can get away with f7.1 and f8 if you don't mind a shallower depth of field. But generally, I was happy with it. Of course, the Z6 is a professional camera. It has probably a more powerful processor. Maybe it has a lookup table that helps correct for all the problems that this lens has. Of course, it's all plastic. The lens is all plastic. It's not super cheap plastic, but it's not outstanding plastic either. Plastic doesn't expand and contract as much as metal does, so under cold weather it's actually a bonus that you don't get too many differential temperature expansions of your glass. That's all I've noticed. So I was very pleased with it. If you could find this lens for $150 in excellent condition, it's worth it. Just be aware that you're going to have to play with the fine-tuned autofocus. I have two FTZ adapters, so I'm going to have to swap them and see if they make a difference or not, because it could be the FTZ adapter. Here's a perfect example. This B picture is pretty sharp, but this C picture is very blurry in the lower right hand corner. You could see it going from left to right. But you know, 85 millimeter and 101 cinder crops is like right on the money. Here's another example. This is 24 millimeters. Looks like it has some bizarre distortion in this railing. I don't remember it looking like that. So this the lower left-hand corner. Looks really nice and sharp. This is the lower right corner, and you can see it starts out sharp on the left and it gets significantly blurry as it moves to the right. This is the upper right-hand side, and it's very blurry. It doesn't look aberrated, but it looks blurry. I don't know what that means, decentered elements. This is the upper left, and you can see it's much, much sharper. This is all in the same frame. Only at 24 millimeters. At 85 millimeters, I noticed I use it the most at 85 millimeters, but I did use a couple of 42s and 63s. But I was very pleased with the way it performed on the Z6. It was outstanding. And it focuses really close. You can get within a couple inches of your subject matter. And so on the Z50, when I was so dissatisfied with this, I mean, it's like I had a different lens on it. So maybe it's the Z50 has problems. That's only 21 megapixels. And it's not a professional camera. It's just a consumer grade camera. It is lighter though. It's got that going for it. And here's some ancient astronauts built these walls. And you know, the people, human beings can't do this. They're too stupid. Now check out this this is the upper right corner, and see how it gets progressively blurry as you move away from the center. I took a picture of this at 85 millimeters. So I want to zoom up on this tree. As an important note, now is the time to adjust your volume down low because there's thundering cataracts, and you're only going to freak out from it.